How to force your brain to do hard things. The Stoic way. Discipline and mental strength. At 9:38 every night, Adrian became ambitious. It happened almost like a ritual. He would sit at his desk, look at everything he had failed to finish that day, and suddenly become certain that tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, he would wake early. Tomorrow, he would train. Tomorrow, he would finish the project he had been delaying for nearly 4 months. Tomorrow, he would stop wasting the first hour of his morning staring at a screen. Sometimes, he even wrote the plan down. 6 odd, wake up. 6:15, exercise. 7 odds, work on project. Looking at the schedule gave him an immediate sense of relief. The strange thing was that Adrian had accomplished absolutely nothing, yet planning tomorrow made him feel as though he had partially repaired today. Then morning arrived. At 6 o'clock, the alarm sounded, and another Adrian woke up. This man had arguments. Good arguments. You didn't sleep properly. Starting when you're exhausted will produce bad work. Another hour would probably make you more productive. There's no point exercising if you can't give it 100%. And the most persuasive argument of all, I'll definitely do it. Tomorrow, Adrian pressed snooze. Nothing dramatic happened. His life did not collapse. Nobody arrived to punish him. He simply taught his mind a tiny lesson. When discomfort appears, negotiation works. The following morning, his brain remembered. And over time, Adrian accidentally built what we will call the Comfort Courtroom. Every difficult task was brought before it. The moment effort appeared, a trial began. Comfort acted as a lawyer, and Comfort was brilliant. It never argued, "Become weak." It said, "You deserve a break." It never said, "Abandon your future." It said, "There's always tomorrow." It never said, "Be afraid." It said, "You should probably prepare a little more first." It never said, "Waste the next 3 hours." It said, "Check your phone for a minute." The arguments sounded reasonable. That was the problem. Adrian's mistake wasn't having these thoughts. His mistake was allowing the lawyer to become the judge. And if you repeatedly struggle to make yourself do difficult things, you may be doing exactly the same thing. You think your problem is motivation. It may actually be authority. Your brain makes a suggestion, and you obey it as though a command has been issued. I'm tired. Stop. This is boring. Escape. This is harder than I expected. Maybe this isn't for me. I don't feel ready. Wait. But there is something the ancient Stoics understood that modern life makes incredibly easy to forget. A feeling can be real without being your ruler. That distinction is where mental strength begins, not when you stop feeling resistance, when resistance stops making your decisions. Marcus Aurelius knew something about this battle. He was the emperor of Rome, yet in the private notes that became known as Meditations, we find him reasoning with himself about something remarkably ordinary, getting out of bed. That detail matters. We imagine disciplined people waking with some internal fire the rest of us don't possess. But one of history's most famous Stoics apparently knew the attraction of staying beneath warm covers. His response was not, "How can I make myself feel excited?" The deeper question was, "What am I here to do?" That is a completely different relationship with action. Most people unknowingly operate according to this formula: feeling, action. If I feel energetic, I train. If I feel inspired, I create. If I feel confident, I begin. If I feel focused, I study. If I feel ready, I take the risk. The problem is obvious. You have placed your behavior underneath something that changes constantly. A bad night's sleep can control your morning. One negative comment can control your afternoon. A moment of anxiety can control an opportunity. Boredom can control whether you finish. And fear can control decisions that affect the next 10 years. The Stoic alternative is harder. Principle, action. Feeling can come along if it wants to. That doesn't mean ignoring genuine exhaustion, illness, injury, or emotional distress. Wisdom is not self-destruction. It means learning to distinguish between "I should stop" and "I would prefer to stop." Those sentences can feel identical in the moment. They aren't. Adrian eventually discovered this because of the project he had been avoiding. It wasn't exercise. It wasn't waking early. Those were symptoms. The real problem was a proposal sitting unfinished on his laptop. If accepted, it could open an opportunity he had wanted for years, which was precisely why he couldn't finish it. Because finishing created another possibility: rejection. As long as the proposal remained unfinished, Adrian could continue believing it might have succeeded. Submitting it would force reality to answer. So he polished the introduction, changed the formatting, researched things he already understood, rewrote sentences that didn't need rewriting, watched videos about productivity, organized his desk. He looked busy, but psychologically, something else was happening. He had discovered one of the most sophisticated forms of avoidance: productive cowardice. Doing useful things so you don't have to do the important thing. And perhaps you've experienced it. The exam is approaching, so you reorganize your notes instead of testing yourself. You need to apply for jobs, so you spend 3 hours improving a resume that was already good enough. You need to start exercising, so you research the perfect training program. You need to have an uncomfortable conversation, so you wait until you can find the right words. You want to start a business, so you spend 6 months designing the identity before asking whether anybody will buy the product. Your brain has not refused to work. Sometimes it will work incredibly hard. It simply chooses work that protects you from uncertainty. This is why forcing yourself to do hard things requires more than increasing effort. You must learn to identify the moment your mind changes the subject. That moment came for Adrian on a Thursday evening. He opened the proposal, read the first paragraph. His chest tightened slightly. Then his hand moved toward his phone. Nothing unusual. He had performed that movement hundreds of times. But this time he noticed it. Not the phone, the sequence. Difficulty, discomfort, escape. It happened so quickly that it had always felt like one event. Now he saw 3. And between discomfort and escape, there was something tiny. A gap. Adrian decided to experiment with that gap. The next time his mind told him to leave, he would remain for 60 more seconds. Not an hour. Not until the project was finished. 60 seconds. The following morning, he opened the document. After several minutes, resistance arrived. Maybe check your email first. He noticed it and stayed. 60 seconds. Nothing miraculous happened. The discomfort remained. But something else happened that was far more important. He disobeyed the impulse. The next day, he did it again. When the workout became uncomfortable, 60 seconds. When he wanted to abandon a difficult page, 60 seconds. When boredom told him to reach for the phone, 60 seconds. This wasn't about productivity anymore. He was conducting an experiment on his own obedience. And slowly, Adrian discovered something. The first urge to escape was often not the limit. It was merely the first protest. That is a distinction worth remembering. Your brain is constantly making predictions about effort. This will be unpleasant. This could embarrass you. This may fail. There is something easier available. Those predictions have a purpose, but you can accidentally train yourself to respond to every prediction with retreat. Then something dangerous happens. Your tolerance for difficulty doesn't remain neutral. It shrinks. You abandon concentration after 20 minutes, then 15, then 10. You reach for stimulation the moment silence appears. You avoid situations where you might look inexperienced. You stop attempting things you cannot immediately perform well. Eventually, your world becomes comfortable and very small. The Stoics approached discomfort differently. They sometimes deliberately practiced going without comforts, not because suffering itself was virtuous, but because dependence on comfort could become a vulnerability. The point was not, pain makes me superior. The point was, closer to, if comfort disappears, I still belong to myself. That idea is more relevant today than it first appears, because modern life has created an extraordinary situation. For many people, the escape route is almost always within reach. Bored, phone, uncomfortable, scroll, lonely, scroll, work becomes difficult, open another tab, waiting for something, entertainment, a thought you don't want to sit with, noise. This creates a strange form of fragility, not because technology is inherently bad, but because if every uncomfortable sensation can be removed immediately, you never discover which sensations you are capable of enduring. So, here's the first human code. Experiment. Choose one difficult task you've been avoiding, then forget about finishing it. Instead, observe what happens when you begin. Watch for the first escape signal, the thought that says, check something, get something to eat, maybe start tomorrow, research more. You're tired, this isn't working. When that signal arrives, don't fight it. Don't insult yourself. Don't shout motivational slogans. Simply recognize it. The lawyer has begun speaking. Then stay for 60 more seconds. Let comfort present its case. Listen if you want. But remember, the lawyer does not deliver the verdict. You do. And this is only the beginning. Because once Adrian learned to remain inside discomfort, he discovered another problem. He had spent years trying to become disciplined while keeping his environment perfectly designed for escape. His phone was beside him. Notifications were active. Entertainment was immediate. Every distraction was easier to access than the work he claimed mattered. And that leads to the next Stoic lesson. Mental strength isn't proving you can resist temptation forever. Sometimes it is having enough self-knowledge to remove the temptation before the trial even begins. Adrian's phone was not the problem. That was the first thing he had to understand. A phone cannot force your hand toward it. A notification cannot physically pull your attention away. An open browser tab cannot command you to abandon your work. But Adrian had spent years teaching himself a pattern. Whenever effort increased, relief was nearby. His desk contained everything necessary to escape the task without technically leaving the desk. Phone on the right, email open on the left, music, application underneath. Messages appearing in the corner, and somewhere behind all of it, the proposal he claimed was the most important thing he needed to finish. He had created a strange competition. On one side was a task offering delayed reward, uncertainty, and the possibility of rejection. On the other side were dozens of things offering immediate relief. Then he expected willpower to referee the match. This is where people misunderstand discipline. They imagine the mentally strongest person is the one capable of sitting beside temptation for 8 hours and heroically resisting it. But consider another possibility. Perhaps the stronger decision happens before temptation gets the opportunity to negotiate. Epictetus built much of his philosophy around a fundamental distinction. Some things depend upon us, and others do not. You cannot completely control whether an intrusive thought appears. You cannot guarantee motivation. You cannot control whether difficult work produces the outcome you want. You cannot force somebody to accept your proposal, but you can control surprisingly ordinary things, where the phone is, whether notifications are active, what website is open, what task is prepared, what time you begin, what you place within reach. Adrian began treating these small decisions differently. Before working, he put his phone in the kitchen, not face down, not on silent beside him, in another room. That distance mattered, because previously, reaching for his phone required almost no conscious decision. His hand could begin the behavior before he had fully noticed the impulse. Now, distraction required him to stand up, leave the room, walk down the hallway, and enter the kitchen. He had inserted something between impulse and reward, friction, and friction gave awareness, time to catch up. This became Adrian's second rule. Don't only strengthen the person, weaken the escape route. If you want to read before sleeping, place a book where your phone normally sits. If you want to exercise in the morning, remove the decisions that morning can exploit. If you need to work deeply, make distraction physically inconvenient. If you keep spending money impulsively, stop making purchasing effortless. If you continuously eat something you're trying to reduce, don't conduct a nightly test of willpower 3 meters away from it. This isn't weakness, it is self-knowledge. A Stoic does not need to pretend temptation doesn't exist in order to demonstrate strength. Sometimes, wisdom is recognizing the battlefield before entering it. But removing distraction solved only part of Adrian's problem, because even inside a quiet room, another escape route remained: his own thoughts. The proposal was nearly finished when he found a sentence he disliked. He read it, changed it, read it again, changed it back. Then he started thinking, maybe the whole proposal isn't strong enough. One sentence became a judgment about one document. The document became a judgment about his ability. His ability became a judgment about his future. Within minutes, Adrian had traveled psychologically from "this sentence needs improvement" to "perhaps I'm not good enough for this opportunity." Nothing outside him had changed. The sentence was still sitting on the screen, but his mind had built an entire future around it. This is where Stoicism becomes more than a philosophy of endurance. It becomes a philosophy of interpretation. Events happen. Then we add meaning. Someone rejects your application. That is an event. Your mind says, "People like me never get opportunities." That is interpretation. You perform badly once. Event: "I'm not talented." Interpretation: "Someone doesn't respond." Event: "They don't respect me." Interpretation: "You struggle with something difficult." Event: "I don't have discipline." Interpretation: "The danger is that interpretation arrives so quickly that it disguises itself as fact." Adrian began using a question whenever he caught himself spiraling. What happened before I explained what it means? That question is deceptively powerful. I failed. No, what happened? I submitted something and it was rejected. That's different. My whole day is ruined. What happened? I wasted 40 minutes. Also different. I have no discipline. What happened? I broke the commitment I made this morning. Now we have something we can work with. Precise language shrinks problems back to their actual size. And this matters enormously when doing hard things because difficulty already demands energy. You don't need to spend additional energy fighting imaginary consequences your mind attached to it. Adrian started calling this the second task. Every difficult activity contained 2 tasks. The first task was visible: write the proposal, exercise, make the call, study, finish the work. The second task was invisible. Don't turn discomfort into a story about yourself. Sometimes the second task was harder because your brain loves identity. You fail once and it wants a label: lazy, weak, undisciplined, unlucky, untalented, behind. But there is a problem with labels. Once you say, "This is who I am," your behavior begins trying to remain consistent with the story. So Adrian stopped saying, "I am terrible at finishing things." He replaced it with, "I have repeatedly escaped difficult endings." The difference looks small. Psychologically, it is enormous. One sounds permanent. The other describes a pattern, and patterns can be interrupted. That brings us to one of the hardest Stoic lessons. You're not training yourself merely for the days when everything goes according to plan. You're training the return. Because eventually, Adrian failed. Of course he did. One Tuesday, he woke late, skipped exercise, spent nearly an hour scrolling, started work behind schedule, then missed the 60-second rule completely and avoided the proposal until the afternoon. By 3 o'clock, the old Comfort Courtroom returned with a new argument. Today is already wasted. Notice how clever that sentence is. It turns one mistake into permission for another. You missed the morning, therefore waste the afternoon. You broke the diet, therefore keep eating. You missed one workout, therefore restart next Monday. You spent 30 minutes procrastinating, therefore the remaining 5 hours no longer matter. This is one of perfectionism's most destructive disguises. It tells you that because you cannot preserve the perfect streak, the imperfect continuation has no value. Stoicism offers a harsher and more useful response. Return to what is required now, not yesterday, not the imaginary perfect version of today, now. Adrian opened the proposal at 3:17. The day had not magically become good. He hadn't rescued his perfect routine. He simply refused to allow one bad morning to purchase the rest of his day. And something began changing. His measure of discipline changed from "how long can I maintain perfection?" 2. How quickly can I return after deviation? That is a much more durable form of mental strength, because perfection is fragile. Recovery is trainable. Think about the people you consider disciplined. You may imagine they never lose motivation, never procrastinate, never become distracted, never break routines. That person doesn't exist. The real difference often appears after the failure. One person misses 3 days and disappears for 3 months. Another misses 3 days and returns on day 4. One person receives rejection and stops applying. Another feels the rejection, learns what can be learned, and submits again. One person embarrasses themselves and decides never to risk embarrassment again. Another survives the embarrassment and discovers it was less dangerous than anticipation suggested. Mental strength is not emotional numbness. It is shortening the distance between disruption and return. If this way of looking at behavior gives you something more useful than another motivational speech, subscribe to Human Code. The purpose here is not to pretend discipline is easy. It is to understand the machinery underneath our choices well enough to stop being controlled by patterns we never consciously chose. Several weeks after Adrian began his experiment, the proposal was finished. There was no cinematic moment, no triumphant music, no sunrise. It was 8:46 on an ordinary Wednesday evening. The document was open. The cursor hovered over submit, and suddenly the Comfort Courtroom became louder than it had been throughout the entire experiment. Read it one more time. Tomorrow morning, you'll see mistakes you can't see tonight. Maybe ask someone else to review it. You have waited 4 months. One more day won't matter. All perfectly reasonable arguments. Adrian almost listened. Then he realized something. This was never really about the proposal. The alarm, the workouts, the phone, the 60-second rule, they had all been rehearsals for this moment. For months, Adrian thought discipline meant becoming capable of forcing himself through enormous suffering. Now he understood it differently. Discipline was the ability to recognize when his mind was requesting escape without automatically granting the request. He read the proposal one final time. Not because fear demanded it, because he consciously decided once was enough. Then he submitted it. And here is where most motivational stories would reward him. The proposal would be accepted. His life would change. The months of discipline would suddenly make sense. But that is not what happened. It was rejected. 3 weeks later, the email arrived. Adrian read it twice. For a moment, everything his mind had warned him about appeared correct. 4 months of work, rejected. All that discomfort, rejected. All those mornings, rejected. And then came the most important moment in the entire story. Adrian noticed that he was disappointed, but he was not destroyed. The thing he had spent 4 months avoiding had finally happened. Reality had answered. No, and he was still sitting there, still capable of thinking, still capable of working, still capable of trying again. Suddenly, he understood something the Comfort Courtroom had never told him. Fear had been selling rejection as a catastrophe when it was actually an experience. Unpleasant? Yes. Final? No. He had spent more energy avoiding the possibility of rejection than the rejection itself eventually required him to survive. And this is where voluntary discomfort reveals its real purpose. You don't practice doing hard things because every hard thing rewards you. You practice because life will eventually give you something difficult without asking permission. Rejection, loss, failure, embarrassment, uncertainty, exhaustion, plans collapsing, people leaving, opportunities disappearing. The Stoic question is not, how do I arrange a life where none of this happens? You can't. The better question is, who will I be when it does? Months earlier, Adrian's brain could defeat him with the possibility of discomfort. Now he possessed evidence. He had stayed when boredom arrived, stayed when fear arrived, returned after failure, removed distractions when he knew he was vulnerable, separated events from the stories he told about them, and finally faced the rejection he had been organizing his entire behavior to avoid. The proposal failed. The training didn't. That is the twist most people miss when trying to become disciplined. They measure discipline entirely by external outcomes. Did I win? Did they accept me? Did the business succeed? Did the video perform? Did I get the promotion? Did I reach the target? Those things matter, but they are not entirely under your control. The Stoic approach brings the measurement closer. Did you act according to what you knew mattered? Did you remain when discomfort asked you to escape? Did you return after failing? Did you control what belonged to you instead of demanding control over what didn't? That is where mental strength becomes yours. So, here is the experiment I want you to take from Adrian. For the next 7 days, do not try to become a completely different person. Choose one hard thing. And identify your escape signal. Maybe your hand reaches for the phone. Maybe you suddenly become hungry. Maybe you start researching. Maybe you clean. Maybe you tell yourself tomorrow will be better. Maybe you begin perfecting something that only needs finishing. When the signal appears, recognize the Comfort Courtroom. Let the lawyer speak. Then ask, is this a warning I genuinely need to respect, or a preference for comfort pretending to be wisdom? If it is genuine, listen. If it isn't, stay. Just beyond your first impulse to escape. Then do it again tomorrow. You're not trying to teach your brain to love suffering. You're teaching yourself something far more useful. Discomfort can speak without being obeyed, and eventually you may discover what Adrian discovered. The brain you thought needed to be forced was never entirely the enemy. It was trying to protect you from uncertainty, effort, embarrassment, and pain. The problem was that you had allowed protection to become confinement. A life without unnecessary discomfort sounds attractive, until you realize how many worthwhile things require it. Love requires vulnerability. Strength requires resistance. Learning requires confusion. Mastery requires being terrible first. Ambition requires uncertainty. Courage requires fear to be present. And discipline requires moments when another option feels better. So perhaps the goal isn't to force your brain into submission. Perhaps it is to establish a different relationship with it. Your mind can object. It can complain. It can predict disaster. It can ask for comfort. It can present its evidence before the Comfort Courtroom. But after everything has been said, responsibility remains yours, the verdict. And the next time your mind whispers, "Not today," you don't need to scream back. You don't need to become angry with yourself. You don't need to feel motivated. Recognize the argument. Make the decision. Then move. Because the strongest person is not the one whose mind never asks for comfort. It is the one who finally learned that a request is not an order.